Mode. We are so glad that you are here. Every Tuesday, Stephanie and I get together just to have a conversation between us and hopefully with you about maybe some ideas that you can bring to the table for your social media, for email marketing, for events, for all the things. We like to just run around, but we love helping you out. And so we love hearing from you. So anytime you are watching this in replay, feel free to drop a comment on this. We would love ideas for rooms, topics that you would love to hear. If you have questions about how certain buttons get pushed in different formats, we would love to help you with that. But today we're going to be talking about 3 content formats. Now, 3 foolproof content formats, ideas for how to categorize your content and be able to think through how to create it better. Because sometimes I think it's easier if you have a formula that you're operating from rather than just a blank canvas. And so today we're going to be talking about some foolproof formulas that you can apply to how you're creating content. My name is Elizabeth Doss, and I am a social media consultant as well as a social media manager, etc. But I also love creating animated GIFs for my clients to be able to use in Instagram stickers, TikTok stickers, but also in comments where they are branded to them, easy, quick engagement responses. So if you're curious about having your own GIFs, please reach out to me. But I'm going to hand things over to Stephanie to introduce herself, but also to kick us off on this topic.
Thanks, Elizabeth. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depending on where you're joining us from. I'm Stephanie Gillis-Falkard. I am the brand architect behind Take Roots Consulting. I lean into the PR, the marketing strategies, if you will, with small businesses and nonprofits, really helping them show up across platforms in both the traditional and what we would say is the non-traditional, or actually the go-to strategies this day and age being social media. So today's conversation around the types of content formats that allow people to show up quickly, not overthink things, because we're all busy in the business, trying to grow the business, trying to reach new people and grow our communities. And I wanted to kick it off with one that may seem very like, okay, that's not breaking news, but often people forget, and it is the tutorials. It is the fact that you can use platforms like LinkedIn, like Instagram, and others to show up and demonstrate the knowledge that you have, creating the value for the community that you are trying to show up and serve by being able to break down things via a tutorial. Tutorials can look a whole bunch of different ways, whether those are videos that you are doing, maybe those right here on LinkedIn, although video is continuing to perform very well here on LinkedIn. It is PDFs, right? There are the abilities to upload PDF documents that walk people through step by step with screenshots of things. So really depending on what it is that you want to lean into, it demonstrates credibility and knowledge as a thought or opinion leader, but also really seasoned in whatever area or industry you are working in. So tutorials continue to be a great way to show up. You know what you know,
Yeah.
and you may take your own approach in certain things like PR strategies as an example, right? What's the best way to craft a news release? What's the best way to pitch media, right? A story. When I've been doing this now for over 25 years, may have a few tips and tricks up my sleeve, and therefore be able to share that in a meaningful way that creates value for someone else and allows you to stand out, again, establish that credibility and start the conversation. So tutorials continue to perform well on either platform, or really any platform. You can do it via blog. You can do it in a PDF. You can do it in a reel, a story. You can do it right here on a live. So you don't really need to overthink it, but go back to, if you're going, well, what am I going to do a step-by-step tutorial on? Think of those FAQs that you get asked, the frequently asked questions that you get asked all the time about what it is that you do. And I want to encourage people to not get so hung up on the fact that, ooh, somebody may do what I do. Of course, there are lots of people that are out there that are doing, public relations or delivering marketing strategies or workshops on that, but you
Mhm.
are you, and you are going to take a very unique approach to it. So again, try not to worry about, oh, if I put this out here, somebody's going to steal it, and come from a place of value, so that when you are showing up, you're coming from a place of service and really trying to build that credibility by also establishing and growing your community. Thoughts, comments, Elizabeth? Over to you.
All of them. I love, like, tutorials are probably my favorite way to create content, because I love when I find something that might help somebody and I figure out, okay, how can I break this down into steps for them to be able to do for themselves? And so I do that a lot. What I love too, Steph, is having that library of tutorials that if somebody asks again the question, because you said, they keep asking those questions. All of a sudden, you have a library where you can send them a link so they can, you could show them, not just tell them how to do the thing or to go deeper into that conversation. So it's a really great idea to have these. Now, you may be thinking, well, my stuff doesn't, like, I'm a restaurant. How do I do a tutorial? Well, one way would be how to heat up leftovers from your restaurant, because you guys know different ways. I think it might have been a Papa John's box once, Steph, on the box. It said, put your pizza in a cold oven and heat it up to 375. And since then, you should get it nice and not too crispy, but like all the parts get warm rather than putting it in a hot oven and you scorch the outside and the inside's still cold. I know this is like a very simple thing, but it's a really great way for a restaurant to do a tutorial. Here's how to reheat barbecue. Here's how to buy this pasta here. And if you throw it, instead of throwing it in the microwave, throw it in the skillet and steam it up this way. Like, so you could have your own methods that you're teaching people on that side of things. And so I think it's a really super cool way. But Stephanie, there is a huge new update. In fact, it rolls out in 2 days. It hasn't even happened yet, but it's about to happen. That is super wild, super cool. Now, I will the caveat with this is your Instagram account must be a business account or a creator account that is public facing. So I'm just going to throw that's a part of this. It cannot be a personal account, but it needs to be a public account. But just imagine the fact that there is a new, I'm going to read it because it's going to do better. Google and other search engines will now automatically index public Instagram content, including your reels, captions, hashtags, and alternate text, provided you have a public professional business creator account and are 18 years or older. Okay, what does this mean? Susie Q is wanting to know how to host an event in Edmonton. And she's looking and she's saying, how would I publicize this event? Well, Stephanie has created content that says this is how, these are 3 steps you need to do before you start planning an event. And she's made this reel and she's added that text and the captions are all in there. Well, Susie Q is typing it into Google, and Google is now accessing Instagram and serving up uh, Stephanie's content. Previous in the past, Google was only going to give you YouTube videos, like and maybe sometimes some TikToks like showed up in there. But now to know that Instagram is going to be scraped for all of that. So when you're making these tutorials, start thinking through. And I know this is a big word for people, but start thinking through the SEO, search engine optimization, these keywords that you can include in your caption or even when you're saying them in there. They are phrases that people are typing into Google, typing into search engines, that your content is the answer for. So, for instance, for me, if people are typing in, how do I add a comment, a GIF comment on Instagram? Hopefully, one of my tutorial videos on this is how you can respond to comments on Instagram with GIFs will show up, because I've created content in that very specific question that people might type, but I'm going to be found for that. but what is it that you want to be found for? Whether it's like we were talking about the restaurant, a restaurant in Nashville, Tennessee. Like, do you want to be known for that thing? And so are you including that in it? So for me, I did social media for a restaurant in downtown Greenville for many years. And I wrote a paragraph that was keyword stuffed that was like, uh inexpensive restaurant downtown Greenville. Like, and so I included that kind of phraseology, and or like, you may be asking, where can I find a an inexpensive restaurant in downtown Greenville? And so I made this paragraph that I would on every other post I would paste it into it, so that if people are typing inexpensive restaurant downtown Greenville, that our content would now be served up to them according to this July 10th deadline. They're going to start to be showing up in Google search. And my last thing before I hand it back to you, Steph, this is already happening in ChatGPT. So when people ask questions in ChatGPT, it is searching the world over. But this connection is only going to get stronger in 2 days, so that when people are typing into ChatGPT, that it'll serve it up. So I have a case study for this. I have a client who's been posting on YouTube, and she's a real estate agent, and she got her first lead from someone who lives out of state, who was trying to Google about the area and the neighborhoods, or not Google, but ChatGPT, tell me about the best neighborhoods or whatever. ChatGPT gave the neighborhoods, but then it put her video with a thumbnail into the conversation. So this person, all they had to do was click on it, and it went straight to her. That person, we have her information all over those videos. That person called her straight away, and she is now their real estate agent for someone who's just going to be moving to the area for like a year or two job type thing, and they needed this done quickly. And so ChatGPT is the one that helped them make that happen. So making all that effort trying to do social media was worth it, because she's already getting people being pointed to her from that side of things. So I know I went all over the world with that, but tutorials are important because they establish your credibility in the niche that you're wanting to be known for. And it's a great way to have people to keep coming back to your content to learn something new. Back to you, Stephanie.
Thanks, Elizabeth. And as you were telling the story of your client, this is actually another content format that people can use.
Yep.
And it's that personal point of view,
Yep.
right? The personal POV. What am I seeing? What whether people are talking about trends in their niche, their industry, or exactly this, what you're seeing with your clients based on the work that you're doing, or these case studies allow people to, again, show up, establish that credibility, lean in to something. And again, you're experiencing it firsthand. So while we all love, our AI tools for formatting our thoughts and everything, sure, then drop it in. If that makes it easier for people to show up and share those experiences or those point of views that again create value and drive conversation. A lot of people are focused on conversion. Conversion's important, don't get me
Yeah.
wrong, but start with a conversation. Start with the conversation. So when you're showing up and you're sharing those personal POVs or point of views, allow people to get to know who you are, Elizabeth, as a Giphy artist, who she's working with, right? I'm like, oh, well, I'm a real estate agent. Oh, I didn't know that this was happening, or that I could use gifts this way, or just the searchability as you shared. So that is another strong and really natural way to show up on these platforms. Again, whether it's LinkedIn, Instagram, TikTok, it really doesn't matter which social platform you're spending time on these days. It is just about how you're showing up and making it a little bit easier for you. When you have a firsthand experience and you're sharing that with your community, it's a little easier to resonate or make those connections.
That's incredible. Incredible. So you were talking point of view videos. It's such a great way for you to bring people along, for the ride. I know we'll probably get more into like the behind the scenes side of things in a minute, but bringing your take to things. One easy way I've seen people do this is they find an article. For instance, I just posted the article that I was referencing. So your Instagram posts will soon show up in Google search. So what I could do is screenshot this or record my screen of this conversation and then jump into either edits or TikTok or Instagram and choose the effects that's the green screen. And I could pop this up behind me as my background and I can sit here and talk through the thing. So we think sometimes we have to come up with all of the ideas. No, I could jump on here, have this article pop up, and I could talk about my opinion about why I think this is going to be a powerful move for the smaller creators to be found by people who may be searching for them but aren't on Instagram, or they're not searching on Instagram to find them. And so I know I'm talking again about that, but this idea of how can you give your point of view talking about things that are going on in your market. So I'll hand things back to you, Steph.
I just want to say I'm now expecting Elizabeth later today to go over to Instagram and see that exact
No,
thing,
not
right?
today.
You've
Jeez.
already, it's a little
Today's
bit of
booked.
homework. It is a little bit of homework,
Yeah,
but
no, it
it
should.
is exactly that. It's not that
Mm-hmm.
we have to recreate
Mm-hmm.
from or start from scratch
Yeah.
this notion of the content. It's the reactions to,
Right.
it's those personal takes, those
Right.
personal point of views, right?
Exactly.
Yes, they can still be funny. Yes, you can
Right.
still show up with your personality. At the end of the day, we all know people do business with people.
Yep.
So I need to be able to understand, how might I work with Elizabeth? What's her take on that? Okay, I agree. I like where she's going with this. Now I'm going to explore further. And that's the whole idea of the starting of the conversation, but showing up, presenting yourself in such a way that, at least starts that interaction. Go ahead, Elizabeth.
Exactly. And the other thing I wanted to throw into this is you can get on Google Alerts and add an alert that if there's any news that has to do with your niche subject, it
Mhm.
will email you that day with it. So I have a Google Alert for my name, which there's a lot of people named Elizabeth Doss, which is interesting. But I also have one for Giphy because I'm a verified artist with Giphy. I want to know kind of what's going on. Now the problem with that one is people use Giphy gifs on their blogs a lot, so sometimes it's completely random stuff, but sometimes it's fun. Like BuzzFeed will do those lists and they'll just add gifs, and so it's a fun way to just reshare those. But let's see, I was thinking, I don't know why this one popped in my head. Normally it's candles, right? But a dance studio. You maybe like what are you talking about, Elizabeth? So one thing they could do is they could type in anytime a dance news story comes up, which I know is probably pretty rare. But let's jump back to the Olympics last year, the breakdancing um, category, and the woman in green. Anyway, but this idea of she could have that pop up and have her talking about it, or do her take on it, or her reenact that side by side or something. So you could put these Google alerts in place so that if you have content being sent to you from Google, that you can then talk about, reenact, all those things. So I'll hand it back to you. So,
Well, that's just more homework, but I love
yeah.
it. So anyone who's, again, watching this, whether you're live or on the replay, think about it. What would be the Google alerts? What would
Mm-hmm.
you want? What industry are you in? What is something that you're wanting to lean into or explore further?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Good idea.
Yeah.
You touched on it already, so now we're going to do a circle back. Gosh, our time runs so fast. We cover a lot
We
in
do.
30 minutes or less. Behind the scenes,
Yeah.
people like to get to know the person behind. What are you
Yes.
working on? How do you go or do that before and then the after? What are you showing us as part of your process? And Elizabeth, you do this really well. I always think of the examples that you say, like, a client gave me these words and then I
Mm-hmm.
created these gifts from that, or
Yeah.
what that
Yeah.
process looks like to get from there, and that behind the scenes, so that, listen, it's a very unique skill that you have. I can't
Mm-hmm.
draw a stick person, so good luck trying to create a gift, but but that notion of, I take something that is here it's a word, and how do I
Yeah.
create something else? Okay,
Mhm.
so for me, right? Ah, there's an event before, it's just an idea. And then you toss to 6 months later of all the work, of all the planning to
Yeah.
ta-da, here
Yeah.
is that event in full swing, doing all of the things. Yes, and having all the glitter and sparkles around it. At least I assumed the jazz hands
Yes.
represented sparkles and glitter. But it's that type of thing. What are you doing in your business that you can show? If you're a product based business, I'm not going to lie, dare I say, it's a little easier for you. You do this, and oh, voila, I have this
Yeah.
physical
Yeah.
product. When we're talking about service businesses, and I've given you already a couple of examples based on what Elizabeth does and the creation of
Mhm.
gifts from
Mhm.
words, to something that I have done over the years is, producing a lot of events, coming from
Mhm.
sitting in a boardroom, or what, drawing out
Yes.
some of the stuff on a
Yeah.
whiteboard,
Yeah.
to, again, that cut through 6 months or 9 months
Yeah.
of work to ta-da. So how can someone take what they do every day as
Yeah.
their business and get behind the scenes? And you don't even have to be in the video if you don't like to be. I mean, people like to see your face. People want to get to know who you are. But I'm going to ducktail one more thing in here, and then I'm going to pass it over to you, Elizabeth, is the voiceover.
Yeah. Yep.
Right? So again,
Yep.
there's lots of people that go, "Oh, I don't like it. I don't want to be on camera." Okay, fine. Start by at least using your voice to be
Mhm.
able to
Mhm.
tell people, what are they seeing? What are they
Mhm.
watching? What is that experience? How does it feel? And then with our friend captions, being able to bring that to life still on screen, but they're
Yes.
hearing your voice, they're
Yes.
hearing your excitement, or whatever the emotion
Mhm.
is that is based on the video at hand. So that, again, I went all around the world and then some, and I'm throwing it back to you, Elizabeth.
And I am catching it and I'm going to release it. Okay. So here's the deal about behind the scenes. It's the remembering to set up the camera. just just grab content while you're doing the thing. I have a really fancy one that James got me for Christmas that I love. That's an above arm because I'm doing a lot of drawing or editing stuff, and so I love having that. Like if you're cooking, it's great to have that. If you're doing art, crafts, any product, boxing, unboxing, like all that stuff, it's really nice to have those types of pieces of equipment to arrange in the way that you want to. But behind the scenes is actually just it's that idea of when we watch a movie, there's a thing called sequencing where they're taking these little B-roll shots to tell the story. So I tell this one all the time where somebody's getting up in the morning. You see them, the hands shoot out when the alarm goes off, and you just see the alarm getting hit. You see the cameras on the ground, their feet hit the ground, and they put on their slippers and walk out of frame. You see just the toothbrush with the toothpaste getting put on it. Like you haven't seen the face of the person yet at all, which is what everyone is afraid of. They don't want their face shown. So there are parts of your day that you can do, but I've seen a lot of people, especially if you do a lot of computer work or you're at your desk, and they'll just set the camera up off to the side and sit there and do work. They'll drink their water, they'll write their notes, they'll do it. And so they just get this footage of themselves doing these things. Then they write out a script of the things that they're working on during the day. And then they just turn it on and read the script as a voiceover over top of the video itself. Okay. So there is a new Instagram app called Edits. It's an outside app, but it's like CapCut, even though CapCut might be, we don't know what's going on with CapCut. So it's not as powerful, I don't think, as some of the CapCut features, but there is still a lot in it that you can do. There's a teleprompter in it. So if you want to drop your script and you actually want to look at your camera, it's a way for you to slow that scroll so you can read while you're doing things, and apparently touch your microphone. But there's that. But also, let's say you forgot to take video, but you did snap a photo of something. In Edits, you can change the length of a photo and then do a voiceover of what's going on in that photo for us, and it will just put in, and you can hit the captions button, and the words will appear on the thing. So if you only have photos, it's a great way to tell the story over top of those photos. Now, my last thing here is I actually saw one this morning, Steph, I wanted to reference because my current client is real estate. I have a lot of real estate stuff in my feed currently. And there's a girl who helps real estate agents do social media. So, or helps them get leads is kind of like her shtick. All she did was set up her camera and sit at her computer, open her computer, sit at her computer. She had a banana clip. She put up her hair, clipped it, kept working, maybe filmed her screen a little bit. Then she took the banana clip out, put her hair down, shut the computer, and walked away. That's what we're seeing on the screen. But she does a voiceover, like you said, where it said, if you don't know like what to post or how to start your leads for the week, this is something I do every Monday morning. And she proceeded to go through how she goes through her CRM, her client list, and see if there's anything going on in that person's life that week. Because I think she keeps track of birthdays and anniversaries and when they bought their house. And so she goes through and maps out any conversations that she wants to have that week. And so, but what I loved about it is she was taking us through a part of her process, and it was not like a craft behind the scenes. It was a business behind the scenes. And so what does it look like in your world, these little things that you, these routines that you have that you potentially could share that could help a client? Because Steph, you've done that amazingly with the processes that you, the questions that you ask to make sure that we're not just covering social media, but we're covering the local side. And so how are you getting the media kit ready and all this stuff when you're thinking about your line of work? There's these things that are routine for you that are not routine for others. And when you show them the behind the scenes, you're building authority to say, wow, if they're going to cover the details on this, then I know that they're going to cover the rest of this. And this is who I want to work with when and if the time is right. But until then, I'm going to pick up on what they're doing and maybe even copy it. Okay, I'll hand it back to you. Ooh, we are at time.
Again, because the conversation is so good. I love it because it's always a friendly reminder. Well, we show up, we do these lives, we get, again, we even talk about using this content to push that back out
Yeah.
to share with our communities. This is so if there's people watching that have client meetings virtually and have the ability to record them with permissions where required. I mean, again,
Yes.
how are you able to serve that up
Yes.
to your community across platforms or in a meaningful way to again establish that credibility and allow people to see a little bit about who you are and how you operate and start that conversation. With all of that, Elizabeth, as you said, we're already at time. It's
Yes.
always a good conversation. I've got some homework. I've got
Me
some
too.
ideas. These are always good reminders for us. So I want to thank everyone for joining us here on Cultivate Weekly. We will not be hosting next week. We both have personal commitments to attend to. We'll be back in a couple of weeks, but typically you will find us on Tuesday mornings,
Mm-hmm.
live on Riverside, YouTube, and on LinkedIn as well. Cultivate Weekly is Tuesday at 8 a.m. Mountain and 10 a.m. Eastern.
Yes.
Elizabeth, any final thoughts before we close it out? Over to you.
Um, was one thing that I loved about, because when you had chosen this topic, again, to bookend this, it's this idea of a formula. How can you start to think about your content as a formula? So you're not just staring at a blank canvas. And I think that these 3 formats that we've given you, thinking through how can you build a formula where you automatically know what goes in the intro, what goes in the middle, what goes in the outro, like part of things. So we had a friend who did this, that the middle part, she was an acupuncture therapist person, but the middle content, she filmed it once. And so she was showing, okay, this one point right here. Well, this one point controls a bunch of different stuff. So she had a video showing this one point that she had in a library, and she just changed out the intro and the outro to say, "Oh, if you have a hurt stomach, like whatever," and then she would plug in the we called it a content sandwich, where the meat was still the same, but the bread on either side, she changed it out with different pain points, that literal pain points that people needed.
Pun
But
intended.
exactly, what does that look like in the context of yours? So for instance, for me, I could show people how to comment with GIFs. That could be the thing that doesn't change. But at the beginning and the end, I could say why you would want to comment on or respond to comments on things. And so I could change out. And so, how could you have these interlocking pieces to help yourself so that you're not spending your whole day making content when you really need to be making candles, doing the dance, or acupressing people? I don't think that's the word.
Or
Anyway,
drinking coffee. Don't forget the coffee.
exactly. But we are so thankful that you guys join us anytime that you can. And again, if you have any questions, Steph and I love to help people in this process to make it a little bit less daunting and maybe give you some courage to step out there and try a new piece of content. So back to you, Steph, to close this out, and we are good.
Well, I am just going to say like cups up. I don't have my coffee
I
yet.
don't either.
This is very bizarre for both of us. But we want to wish you all a great week, actually a great couple of weeks, and we'll see you back here in 2 weeks from today, 8 a.m. Mountain and 10 a.m. Eastern here on Cultivate Weekly. Have a great week, everyone. Bye bye for now.
Cups up.